what will happen as the ground dries out, the soil cracks? What will that do to the climate? Cracking soils could accelerate climate change. Climate change is expected to lead to more frequent and intense drought, which in turn causes soil to crack, releasing more carbon dioxide and further warming the planet. Hello friends, Jim here. Well, here it is, cracking soil. Soil cracks and it dries out, and these desiccation cracks can enhance the release of greenhouse gases. Well, no more universal image of drought than crisscross of cracks in parched soil. Soils contract as they dry, splitting the ground, cracking the ground, which can allow carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases to leak out from below and go enter the atmosphere. Researchers have proposed that the deeper, more frequent droughts predicted on the climate chain will lead to more greenhouse gas emissions via soil cracks. Researchers already knew separately that drought can enhance soil cracking, that soil cracks can enhance greenhouse gas emissions, and that climate change is predicted to make drought more intense and frequent in many arid parts of the world. What this paper does is put all that together, says soil scientist Kelly Kaylor of the University of California, Santa Barbara, not involved. It shows how drought-driven changes to the physical structure of soils, in this case cracking, could contribute to climate change too. Soils are the planet's greatest stockpile of terrestrial carbon. When plants grow, they grab CO2 from the air, capture it as biomass. When animals or other organisms consume this biomass, they break it down into carbon dioxide for energy, release it back to the atmosphere, such as when we exhale. But biomass buried in soils tends to stay there, keeping its organic matter from returning to the air as carbon dioxide. Organic material buried in soil still degrades, just does so slower than at the surface or on the surface. Microbes and fungi in soils, they basically work on the buried biomass to break it down, releasing some of the trapped carbon as CO2, sometimes methane, especially in the case of permafrost, and sequestering some of the leftovers as dark carbon-rich substance called humus, right? That nice, deep, dark brown color, and that stays in the soil, and that provides nutrients for plants. The balance between carbon burial and microbial, consumption ultimately controls how much carbon soils can store. Anything that gives microbes a boost can speed up the degradation of soil carbon. Generally, microbes eat organic carbon faster when temperatures are warmer. Makes sense. Historically, soil scientists interested in how climate change affects soil carbon have mostly focused on the effects of temperature. But there's a growing recognition that drought matters too, as does the physical structure of soils. That includes soil cracks, which Kayla says researchers often view more as a nuisance to be avoided in field measurements than worthy of study in their own right. Well, that's changing. When soils dry out and contract, the resulting fissures can be up to a few meters deep, depending on the soil type. They form most easily in fine-grained, clay-rich soils. Because if it's sandy soil, the sand will kind of, slide downward and kind of fill the cracks in. Cracks expose deeper layers of soil to fresh, oxygen-rich air and water, which really help increased microbial metabolism. With plenty of organic material around for soil microbes to degrade, a lack of either water or oxygen is often the only thing holding them back from consuming the material and releasing soil carbon. Geotechnical engineer Farshid Vahedafard of Tufts University and his colleagues made the connection between climate change, drought, soil cracks, and greenhouse gas emissions while studying how drought changes soil structure in ways that could threaten earthen architecture such as dams and levees. Desiccation cracks due to drought, not a new thing. Neither is oxygen of soil, carbon, or climate change. But one thing that caught my attention is the dynamics between these three. As we started investigating that, I realized that it seemed like there was a feedback loop. Oh boy, here we go, another feedback loop. As the planet's average temperature climbs, researchers expect drought to intensify and grow more frequent in many arid regions, right? Dry areas that get drier, wet areas that get wetter. More droughts would lead to more soil cracks, which would release more carbon dioxide from soils. This extra carbon dioxide in turn contributes to climate change, adding to further warming of the atmosphere, further drying out of the ground because the warmer atmosphere, especially when it's a dry air, will suck whatever moisture is left in the ground, increasing the cracking and deepening the cracking, releasing more CO2, and there is your positive feedback loop. So Vahedafard and his colleagues published their findings in environmental research letters. Human greenhouse gas emissions substantially outstrip enhanced carbon dioxide emissions from soil. Small changes in processes that happen over large portions of Earth's surface, including many dryland regions, can actually add up to large shifts. There could be more to the feedback loop than just CO2. Vahedafard pointed out there are several unanswered questions about the dynamics of soil desiccation, cracking, drought, and greenhouse gas emission. It is possible that this feedback could involve other greenhouse gases such as methane and nitrous oxide. Right? We know that these are released when the permafrost thaws. And water trickling down cracks into deep soils could also dissolve inorganic mineral carbon stores, and it's still unclear what effect that would have. So, with these questions that need to be examined and studied, Vahedafard said that the next step is clear. We need to quantify the strength of the feedback loop. If researchers can figure out how much each step influences the next, there may be a better way to mitigate. And that includes, modeling agriculture, land management, infrastructure, and so forth, not to mention the climate. This feedback loop has been overlooked. So, warmer air in a dry region sucks out whatever moisture is remaining. You form cracks. If there is somehow a precipitation event or some sort, maybe a runoff of some sort, the water infiltrates. It then provides a needed ingredient for the microbes to do their thing. They consume whatever organic material is there, releasing more CO2 to the air, trapping more energy, warming things up, further drying out, further cracking, making the cracks deeper. So you get more cracks and a deepening of the cracks. And this is now another positive feedback loop. We're just finding out more and more all that we're doing to mess things up big time. So, I thought this was interesting and wanted to share this with you. We'll talk soon.